Okay, so the reason why what I have written is called the black bubble is because I'm comparing it to the financial bubble of 2008. This is because what this is isn't just a child trafficking cartel posing as judges and attorneys and deceptive psychologists. This affects all parts of how state-sponsored offices, from courthouses, police departments, and jails, and many other offices, have been hijacked by these deceptive role players, and the different stages of how they do this, and the different stages of evil or corruption or terror that they're involved in themselves. Not all are doing the same things. It's newer to some than it is to others. Others are bribed, blackmailed, betrayed. So it's just this rotten, disgusting mess of terror involving countless judges, attorneys, guardian ad litems, deceptive psychologists, not just in Utah, but from coast to coast. And so the reason why I'm calling it the black bubble is that in that comparison, it reaches every Ivy League courtroom to every backwoods courtroom and every local courthouse, police department, and jail, and other state-sponsored offices in between. It has turned itself into this disgusting, terrifying bubble of terror that is bursting because of its reach, that it goes into the classrooms, the courtrooms, the police departments, and everywhere. And with the tools we have now in 2024, it is bursting because these patterns have been hidden for decades. But now, with the good parts of social media, these patterns are being identified not just in Utah but from coast to coast in their terror, and are being outed, and this bubble is bursting. So that's why it's called the black bubble. It goes far beyond the wrongful removal of children, this child trafficking cartel posing as judges and attorneys and deceptive psychologists who are wrongfully removing children by the thousands, not just in Utah, but from coast to coast. This started in '97 with the Title IVE, otherwise pronounced the Title 4E, adoption subsidies that crooked parts of offices in Utah and dozens of the most corrupt states quickly learned how to take advantage of by forcing, forging, and faking adoptions by wrongfully removing children from homes and calling it an adoption because they're stashing the kids in group homes or foster care. It's another way to compare it. It's like a corrupt tow company impounds a vehicle and then holds that vehicle for their own purposes to make money off it. These deceptive role players, this is literally what they're doing. They're impounding people's children by the thousands and holding them in group homes, disguising it as adoption, disguising it as foster, so that they can make money off the children. It's like the kids literally have a barcode on their forehead and they're just zapping it. So part one is more of the what, where, when, why, how, and who of all this, of the black bubble. Part two is where I name 52 deceptive role players and more, as this case study relates to me and my two daughters being wrongfully removed from me in Utah, through the first 3 years ago, and then the second 6 months ago. And my 8-year-old's location is still unconfirmed after 6 months because of these terrors. So that's why this is why it's important to continue going public and shining this brighter light, so her location can be confirmed, and her safety and well-being can be confirmed as we continue to conquer this corruption for all of us, not just the deceptive role players, but for those who they have weaponized to do these terrorizing things, how they enable or how they will weaponize one parent to do terrorizing things to the other parent for their own dark purposes of trying to hide their forgeries and everything else. So this is real, this is happening. You can find the link in my TikTok. You can just click it and it'll open up all the links there at the link tree. If you're not on TikTok, it's linktree/GuvvyWuvvy, GUVVY, and share this with everyone. This is a way, if you're having a hard time telling your own relatives, friends, family, what has happened to you, you can dive into this, make a study of it, and intelligent people will be able to see very quickly what is happening. Intelligent law enforcement officers who aren't corrupt, who haven't been tricked into these terrors, will be able to see very quickly what is happening, how others have been scapegoated into this, and how they themselves can avoid being scapegoated into this. It is an invitation for well-intending law enforcement officers to band together with other well-intending public officials in state-sponsored offices and to come forward, even those who may have been tricked into a little bit of this corruption. It really literally is a child trafficking cartel posing as judges, attorneys, guardian ad litems, deceptive psychologists, and more to wrongfully remove children from homes. And then it goes far beyond that into other parts of the courthouse, as part 2, Cast of Characters, shares how I've experienced that as well, and being targeted in other ways by the different stages of these schemes. That includes the arrest on March 5th, which really was a ritualistic execution disguised as an arrest, but I knew that, I knew what to expect, and I was able to avoid that. And if you dare doubt this, then I have to ask you, and the body-worn camera footage is at that link, if you are a law enforcement officer and you're going to arrest a live prisoner at the courthouse and bring them out alive, you think you would know how to leave the courthouse with that prisoner, especially if you had 5 hours to figure that out, and especially if you pass yourself off as a court officer who is supposed to be at the courthouse all the time. Now, if you have been tricked and triggered into doing terrible things like ritualistic killings disguised as an arrest, you would just go to the courthouse and sit around for 5 hours until you try to trick that prisoner into going into a dark side room where you could then perform the ritualistic killing, execute them, disguise it as an arrest, and then have them brought out the front in a body bag while the media is deceived, as happens. We know this is happening with West Valley City Police, who did this to me March 5th. They did something similar in 2019 where they executed a guy in their basement as a ritualistic killing after they had antagonized him for 2 hours. And they disguised it as something else, but it was a ritualistic killing performed by tricked and triggered young officers, with the other one who did that. So this is what we're seeing. There's more links there about this and how young, once well-intending officers are tricked into doing these ritualistic killings. And then we see how all these once well-intending federal subsidies, whether it was related to getting kids into homes who needed them, or mass incarceration, how it's all happened over the last 40 years, and then since the last 20 years, and then especially in Utah the last 7 years. And that's how these stages work. They expand stage by stage, state by state, corrupt state-sponsored office by corrupt state-sponsored office, and then it pulls everyone else in along the way for terror upon terror. So that's why it's the black bubble. It is bursting. And if you're in Utah, if you're out of Utah, you want to get a hold of me, it's easy to do. Just let's keep shining this brighter light, and let's keep conquering this for the the hundreds of thousands of child victims every year, and the millions of parents and other U.S. citizens being targeted with this. We have the tools. The Black Bubble can be read. It's a guide for everyone. And we're looking forward to conquering this and continuing to get louder. Thank you. Let's keep this rolling.